Hello, everyone. I think we're going to start up. So my name is Sarah Bruger. I am Principal Planner with Warren County Planning and Development. And today I have Ethan Gaddy, County Planner with Warren County Planning, as well as Alex Belenz with the SE Group, and Larissa Reed with Common Ground Consulting here today. And we're all here to talk about the Outdoor Recreation Economy Strategic Plan. This is a lunch and learn. Again, we just want to thank you all so much for taking the time to attend and discuss the Outdoor Recreation Economy Strategic Plan. Just some housekeeping. So if you wouldn't mind in the chat, if we can add, or if you can introduce yourself, just state your name so that we have it for attendance purposes. That would be very helpful. And then for the content of this Lunch and Learn, we are going to have a 30-minute presentation, really going through the draft plan itself. And then we are going to have an opportunity at the end for comments, questions. I'd say if you have any questions as you are going through the plan or we're going through the presentation, feel free to include that questions or comments as we go. And depending on time flow, we will do our best to respond to those comments. So with that, I think we are going to move forward. Is there anything else we need to add, team?
We're getting some notifications that the chat is disabled. All right, thanks, Alex.
Yep, just fix that.
Appreciate it, everybody. Thanks for letting us know.
Awesome.
Great.
Okay, so we are starting off just showing the 4-part vision that was compiled for the outdoor economy. So I want to back up a little bit and talk about kind of the process that led us to this vision. So I will say this process has been going on for the last year and a half. We've had a series of, the Project Advisory Committee was formed. We had a 9-member Project Advisory Committee. We really appreciate the time and effort that this Project Advisory Committee has spent working through this plan development with us for the last year and a half. We've had a series of 24 site tours throughout this process. We've had stakeholder and industry professional stakeholder meetings. We had about 9 Zoom stakeholder meetings. It was about 18 hours of discussion overall, talking about the challenges and barriers, and also the trends and opportunities of the outdoor recreation economy in Warren County. And we've also tied in the comp plan, open house, and surveys into this outdoor recreation economy strategic plan. The survey that was conducted with Warren County 2040 had a lot of outdoor recreation aspects to it that we have really looked at and also incorporated into this plan. So for the first year with the outdoor rec plan, we did look at the stakeholder input, evaluating the existing conditions, and there is a report on the website, the Outdoor Recreation Economy Strategic Plan website, that is below the draft plan, that really does summarize everything that we evaluated with the existing conditions and some of the feedback that we had from stakeholders. And I just want to say that is really what informs the plan that we are looking at. And so really just wanted to highlight that and how we got to this vision. So with this 4-part vision, really this is aspirational. The vision articulates the desired future outcomes for the outdoor recreation economy in Warren County. And so with the first vision statement, it is more focused on the residents of Warren County, providing a large variety of recreational assets for a range of abilities for residents. And then we pivot to the tourism economy and really how we provide multi-season outdoor recreation experiences, also focusing on the linkages between communities and the outdoor recreation activities themselves. The third vision statement is tying the quality of life factors and how they benefit Warren County businesses and the community by improving business recruitment and employee retention. And then with the 4th vision statement, We do talk more broadly about both residents and visitors of all backgrounds having that accessibility to the outdoor recreation experiences within Warren County. Next slide, please. Okay, so I talked a little bit about Warren County 2040. So we're going to talk a little bit about the demographics of Warren County from 2010 to 2020. And there have been some changes. Notably, population has not changed, but the demographic shifts have changed. So we have seen from 2010 to 2020 that there has been a shift from the up county towns declining in population to the town of Queensbury experiencing an increase of in population. So there has been that demographic shift that we have seen. We've also seen with aging population that has shifted. So we do have a higher percentage of seniors in Warren County currently than children. And that changed from the 2010 to 2020 census. So we do have, some challenges within Warren County, but I want to say that there's so much opportunity from the outdoor recreation perspective. So from the existing conditions report and our evaluation of the businesses within Warren County, we have found that, there is a variety of recreational assets all throughout Warren County. We have 160 private businesses in Warren County that are directly involved in the sale of outdoor recreation goods, services, or experiences. So, we have that diversity. We have the businesses to support those activities. And we are really well positioned to leverage the outdoor recreation for community and economic benefit within Warren County. So with that, I will turn it over to Alex, who is going to go more into the plan itself, the draft, and some of the components of that. Take it away, Alex.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for setting the table for us. I'm Alex Belenz with SE Group. So we were a project manager for this. We work all over the country on plans, designs, and processes related to outdoor recreation. And I do a lot of work where outdoor recreation intersects with community development goals, economic development goals, quality of life goals, and thinking about all of those different relationships. So was really excited to be part of this process. I'm very familiar with Warren County. My folks live up in North River. I grew up skiing at Gore and Garnet Hill, and was really gratified to be part of this. I was joined in this by Larissa Reed from Common Ground Consulting. Larissa, if you want to just introduce yourself really quick.
Sure. I'm down in the Capital District. I'm a small business owner and I work with nonprofits and governments and partners on parks and protected area planning and that interface between humans using the environment and our amazing natural resources and how we plan for those activities. So as Alex mentioned, I'm partnering with SE, and I'm also, for this project, specifically focused on the stakeholder engagement role.
So coming into this process, our job was to understand, where the county was at for thinking about what its outdoor recreation opportunities were, how those outdoor recreation activities intersect and influence economic activity, what the relationship between outdoor recreation and community is, try to make sense of all of that, and think about where are there gaps, needs, opportunities, and partnerships where outdoor recreation can be leveraged to address not only the goal of improving and sustaining outdoor recreation, but also thinking about the other community development and economic development challenges that the county has related to some of those challenging demographic trends and maybe inconsistent economic development and growth throughout the county. And so our mission was to establish a 5-part process to do that. I'm just going to go over that in a nutshell. We did a research and analysis phase where we took stock of all the county's different outdoor recreation assets. We'll share a little bit more about that later. We did a lot of outreach with different stakeholders and looking at different community planning documents, understanding ongoing projects and initiatives, and really just trying to make a sense of that whole scene of outdoor recreation in the county. That was really foundational for us as the consulting team to build our familiarity with what's going on in the different communities, but also to then share that back with different stakeholders and our partners at the county to understand, here's what's going on in all these different pockets. where are there some themes, where are there some common challenges, common opportunities, where can we look to work together to address some of those moving forward. The stakeholder engagement piece Sarah touched on, and Larissa's going to go into a little bit more detail in a second. That was an absolutely critical piece of this. We really tried to build a big tent through this process and thinking about it's not just folks who are directly involved in the process of delivering outdoor recreation, whether that's by building and maintaining trails or operating a ski area, but folks who intersect with outdoor recreation in a number of different ways, whether that's through economic development work, whether that's through community development work. So Larissa, if you want to just share a little bit more about what all we did through the stakeholder engagement process, I think that would be helpful.
Sure thing. So I just want to thank everyone. I'm seeing some familiar names here in the chat. Some of the members of our stakeholder conversations, focus groups, and our project advisory committee. We had a project advisory committee of 9 members, 9 community members who were professionals in the outdoor recreation space and other leaders in the community. And that group stayed with us throughout the entire project, over a year, where we had regular meetings to get their input and feedback and guidance. Earlier, it was mentioned that we took a site tour. We visited more than a dozen different public and private sites. We chatted with a lot of folks at those sites just to get some on-the-ground information and discussion going. And we re-engaged with those folks at some of those on-the-ground sites later on in the process. We also had focus groups. We had about 10 different focus groups. We had over 50 people that we interviewed in focus group and kind of group conversation over the course of the last year. And that was an amazing process. So thank you for those of you that participated in those. We had everything from specific groups like trail, nonprofit groups to business leadership groups and environmental as well as economic development authority type folks. We also, the slide you're looking at right now, the photo comes from the comprehensive plan meeting. As Sarah mentioned, we inserted some questions, and there was related questions about the outdoor recreation economy in the comp plan update process that was going on. At that meeting, we received over 40 comments just on the outdoor recreation poster and content that we were sharing, and we heard back from over 900 respondents on some of the outdoor recreation questions we had in the online survey. And I can direct you to the link I posted a moment ago to see the research report, which includes a lot of the stakeholder information that we collected. Alex, would you like me to hit on any of the themes that we heard from the stakeholders?
Yeah, a minute or two on the themes would be helpful.
Absolutely. Okay, so these are just some high-level themes. You're going to hear these reiterated throughout our conversation today. So it's not an exclusive list. This is these things plus others that you'll be hearing about for our Lunch and Learn today. We heard that there's a need for a consolidated and updated information source that everyone can use, whether it's a business recreation provider, a member of a development organization, or a visitor or a resident. We also talked with stakeholders about finding employees who can commit to the season and the employment and the challenges with housing and transportation. So those are real concerns for businesses and the economy itself. We heard recommendations to continue to engage young people in the outdoor recreation economy and outdoor jobs. And related to that, also being ready for more beginner and entry-level visitors and people that are either residents or visitors that are trying something for the first time and need guidance and information on where to get started. Some other things we heard is we heard folks saying they wanted well-maintained trails and safe trails, that they wanted some separated trails in some cases for different types of uses, and that they also wanted to have some more access to lakes and rivers. And on the visitor side, in terms of folks coming in from out of the community, whether it's me down here in Capital District or someone coming in from farther away, we heard recommendations to be ready for shorter and less planned visits as people use the internet to quickly make decisions based on weather and availability of opportunities, and also to plan and be welcoming of more diverse visitors. And lastly, we heard a strong recommendation, and we reiterated through the plan, that this plan really reflects the needs of the residents and the locals. This is not a visitor and tourism study. This is about the outdoor recreation as a whole and the amazing things that are in Warren County that will help continue to grow the resident community there.
Thanks, Larissa. Yeah, that's a really great and concise summary of a lot of really rich conversations that we had with folks, which is extremely valuable. Yeah, so in terms of completing our process, we took everything that we learned and we heard, And we did some visioning, as you saw at the top of the presentation, did some goal setting, thinking about what are those needs, gaps, opportunities that we heard about, where are we now as a county, where would we like to go in terms of outdoor recreation. And then we got down into more strategic planning that we'll talk about later. So identifying some action areas, specific actions, and projects and initiatives that we feel would be well served to move forward with to address those different opportunities. And then putting it together in a final plan document, the draft of which has been posted online for about a week or two. So a process of synthesizing everything that we want to roll out and put that in a plan that's useful not only for the county government, but for anyone who's involved in the outdoor recreation economy. And again, we're thinking about that as a big tent of people. So we mentioned our planning team and our project advisory committee. Super valuable to spend a lot of time with these folks and get diverse perspectives from different parts of the county, from folks who intersect with everything from outdoor education to owning outdoor recreation businesses. So like we mentioned before, that was an invaluable part of the process. All right, so let's get into some outdoor recreation economy 101. I wanted to set the table a little bit and just talk about what we mean when we talk about outdoor recreation. There's not a universal definition of outdoor recreation, especially if you're talking about what activities might be included or excluded. For this plan, we wanted to focus on, the things that Warren County has that kind of makes it a special destination and location for outdoor recreation. So what are those assets and landscapes and destinations that, are kind of Warren County recreation? So we focused on trail-based recreation. That could be hiking, mountain biking, snowmobiling, anything that takes place on a trail, water-based recreation, kayaking, whitewater rafting, fishing, paddling, motorized boating, anything on water, snow-based recreation, skiing, we mentioned snowmobiling, snowboarding. And then we have our last category is what we might call traditional recreation. That doesn't quite fit as neatly into the other categories, but that can include things even like summer camps, hunting, and things like birding even. There's a lot that can fold into that. We kind of drew the line at things like team sports, so we didn't include things like maybe like soccer or baseball in this plan. We wanted to keep it more focused on kind of those nature-based outdoor recreation activities. And what was really good to see when we did the comp plan survey is, how much participation there is in these activities. So on the bottom of the screen, that reflects our survey results from what we heard from folks. So almost everybody who took that survey participates in outdoor recreation in some way. It's 93% of people are getting out, doing something in the outdoors in the summer. And then just the rate of participation in some of these activities those well exceed what you would think, what we've seen for national averages for participation in all of those activities. So we already knew that going into this, that, there's going to be a lot of interest in this plan and that there's a lot of outdoor recreation activity happening in the county, but seeing things like 85% of respondents saying that they go hiking, that really tells you something about, how special Warren County is as an outdoor recreation destination. So once we kind of defined what we mean by outdoor recreation, we could then define what we mean by the outdoor recreation economy and then start to do some planning for it. So broadly, we can think about outdoor recreation activity and the influence that it has on economic activity. So that can show up in a lot of different ways. That could be someone coming in, going for a hike, and then stopping to get food after or staying overnight as part of that visit. But it could also be things that are maybe a little bit more tangential to that. It could be, the degree to which outdoor recreation influences a business to locate in Warren County when they could locate somewhere else, or a family to reside in Warren County when they could locate somewhere else. And we really wanted to think about the relationship that not only, those kind of residential decisions come into play, but also what it means when someone's coming and spending money at a food and beverage establishment or staying overnight in the county, and understanding that that has a lot to do with the outdoor recreation amenities and opportunities and experiences that are available in the county. So the reason I'm showing these two businesses on here is so you have a great example of a business like the Hub up in Brant Lake that, the Hub is, you can get food there, you can get your bike work done there, you can hop right on the trails out the back door. Like that's very clearly an outdoor recreation business. But you also have places like the Queensbury Hotel, how many people who are staying there because they're going to be going up to Lake George or skiing at West Mountain. So we do want to really think about all those kind of different relationships when we think about an outdoor economy. To help us really understand and analyze it, we think about the outdoor economy under three pillars. We have infrastructure and assets. So assets would be the landscapes and natural resources that are sustaining and providing outdoor recreation experiences. So mountains, lakes, rivers, streams, places like that. A little bit different than a typical economic development asset. Typically you might think of a factory or a farm or something like that. The key thing in outdoor recreation is that the outdoor economy assets are publicly held assets. So when you think about the outdoor economy, we think about that natural partnership between public, nonprofit, and private sector as coming together to form the outdoor economy. Directly related to the assets is infrastructure. So that would be the means by which you are recreating in those assets. So trails, boat launches, chairlifts, all of those different pieces of infrastructure. That's super critical to understand the availability, quality, and condition and accessibility of that infrastructure. Businesses, we'll talk a little bit more about businesses. I mentioned them before. We think about outdoor recreation businesses as those that might provide outdoor recreation gear or provide access to outdoor recreation through business activity. So selling lift tickets, renting kayaks, campgrounds, things like that. And there's also the other businesses that might be, again, more tangentially related to the outdoor economy. And the last is communities. And communities are really kind of the glue that brings us all together. So communities provide the infrastructure and the policies that allow people to reside in the county and allow businesses to operate. Community organizations like trail groups or outing clubs are really critical for maintaining infrastructure, getting people outdoors, activating those experiences. We also think of communities as the government agencies that are involved in this. So land managers, law enforcement. There's so many different agencies and organizations that intersect with outdoor recreation. Outdoor economies is an area that is just growing in terms of its awareness and the amount of resources that are going into understanding and supporting and sustaining this. It is an economic sector that's tracked by the federal government. So they release numbers every year that look at the economic contributions of outdoor recreation across different states. So the most recent data we have for New York State is that it's a $34 billion industry and that it sustains almost 250,000 jobs in New York State. So it's a real well-established economic sector that we want to understand better in Warren County, how it shows up, what the needs and opportunities are. And that was the big impetus for this planning process. So I'm just going to take us through some of our key findings from the research and the stakeholder engagement we did, looking at those three pillars for the outdoor economy. So infrastructure and assets, unsurprisingly, Warren County has amazing outdoor recreation assets. That was not a groundbreaking finding, but it was worth really reflecting on just the diversity and quality that is contained within a county. Not only just the mountains and kind of the premier destinations, but even just the number of lakes and ponds, the mileage of trails, almost 300 miles of natural surface trail in a single county, 3 ski areas. It's a really impressive mix, and it shows up in every season, which is super important as well. What's interesting is the infrastructure piece to this. So there's certainly great trails, great places to get a boat in the water, great places to go skiing. There's also kind of a lot of what we might call like legacy trail or trails that have been around that may not be getting the the amount of attention that they need. A couple ways that showed up for us was on certain trails, understanding that there's trails that maybe weren't originally designed to the right standard of quality that now have issues with drainage, erosion, and just kind of the overall user experience. Trailheads being another one that's kind of the entry point for outdoor recreation for a lot of folks. And, having a trailhead where the parking area, you have to walk along a busy road to get to the trail like you have to do for some of the Tongue Mountain hikes, things like that. Some of the water access points, have suffered just with either improper initial design or just kind of lack of maintenance, all of which affects kind of the accessibility and enjoyment for those experiences. So while we certainly saw a lot of great trails, a lot of great outdoor recreation experiences, one of the kind of key takeaways was that the assets are amazing and that the infrastructure doesn't always quite match the promise of the assets in the county. So that's going to show up really strongly in some of our recommendations that we'll look at later on. Businesses, we've done some reflection on business already. Sarah mentioned we identified over 160 private businesses that are directly involved in outdoor recreation in Warren County. So that's a huge number. And that, like we mentioned before, that spans campgrounds, that spans rail biking operations, that spans whitewater rafting guides. About half of those are businesses that are directly involved in getting people outside in some way or another. So that would be everyone I just mentioned, but even things like summer camps, fishing guides, entities like that. There's also a number of businesses that are involved in things like servicing gear, retail sales, and even trail building, things like that. So for a county that's relatively small in population, this really shows up strongly in terms of an economic sector within the county. The tourism side of the business pieces was also something that we've mentioned and that we looked at quite closely and heard a lot about. Obviously, there's a really long-standing relationship between outdoor recreation and tourism in the county. There's this kind of experiential economy that people are always looking for, real experiences, and that's something that really kind of has weathered, different trends and consumer demand, and it's been a strong contributor for a long time in the county. We know from data that's made available to New York State that it supports almost 6,000 direct jobs within the county itself, over $850 million in annual visitor spending in the county. So it's showing up really strongly. But we also heard it's definitely not a set it and forget it part of the outdoor economy in Warren County. It has some real needs and challenges. One being kind of the distribution and availability of overnight accommodations, particularly in the northern areas of the county. That is really a barrier to greater economic impact, just with maybe a limited ability for folks to stay overnight. And we know that when folks spend longer, they spend more money in our communities. So we know that's really important. There's also just the aging of that stock of hotels and motels across all areas of the county, and some challenges with the reinvestment that might be needed in those to sustain them as overnight accommodations. Larissa mentioned there's just a ton of different information sources out there about direct need to go to this thing, that thing in Warren County, and how there's not having kind of a centralized piece really is a challenge for having kind of coordinated engagement across different tourism partners to promote high quality visitor experiences and itineraries. So we got even a lot more feedback beyond that about some of the different challenges and opportunities in the tourism space. And it's certainly a focus that we want to maintain an eye on as we move forward. Communities. So like I mentioned, communities, they're that glue that's kind of holding all these different pieces together. And a couple of things that showed up really strongly from this. One is the economic connections that communities have to their in-town or nearby outdoor recreation assets showed up really strongly. One of the things we looked at is we looked at the comprehensive plans for each town in Warren County that has one. And in every plan, each plan for each community identified outdoor recreation infrastructure projects that they viewed as largely as economic kind of development initiatives, to say, we have our hamlet, we have our main street, we have our downtown. That's where our businesses are located. It's really close to all these different outdoor recreation experiences, and we want to enhance that connection either physically through better trails or other types of connections, or just in the eye of the public to say, hey, after your hike or after your mountain bike or your paddle, come downtown, get a bite to eat, or even start your outdoor recreation experience by parking on Main Street. At the same time, a lot of these towns, they're small communities, volunteer run in some ways, limited staff, and sometimes they struggle to identify the capacity to move forward on these initiatives, that there might be complicated grant applications or matching requirements to access certain funding, or projects that are volunteer led, and it's just hard to sustain, the capacity to move forward on these things when, it's just being done on a volunteer basis. So we heard a lot about that kind of gap between here's where we want to be as a community in terms of developing our outdoor recreation scene, and here's kind of where we're stuck maybe in terms of the resources that we have available to us. We heard really strongly through all of that about the importance of outdoor recreation to quality of life and how that intersects with a lot of other things in terms of how do we retain young families, how do we attract businesses, and a lot of other community development objectives. You'll see on the bottom here, one of the questions we asked in the comprehensive plan survey was, what are the most important quality of life factors for living in Warren County? And outdoor recreation was of a similar importance to the response to that survey as schools, cost of living, housing, and well-paying jobs. So it's a really important thing for residents. It really is a big reason why many residents choose to live in Warren County. And that's why you're seeing it show up so strongly in these community planning initiatives to say, hey, we don't want to just rest on our laurels of what we have as far as outdoor recreation experiences. We want to make sure it's well maintained and sustained for the benefit of everyone. I'm just going to flash up some communities that are taking an active look at that. We heard a lot about different initiatives. Just an example from Chester, a couple of things that they've got going on. They have the Chester Challenge, which is kind of a promoted itinerary where there's a number of different hikes that you can do all in close proximity to their hamlet. So there's kind of a whole itinerary. There's, an award that you can get for going through that process. They're also doing some active planning for connecting their hamlet to nearby outdoor recreation destinations. So they've done comprehensive trail system planning that looks at how do we not only enhance the trail systems, but how do we bring those trail systems into the community? And we saw examples of this in other communities trying to do similar things. So that is all about what we kind of heard and learned through the process. And now we're thinking about how do we apply this to strategic planning. So the Outdoor Recreation Economy Strategic Plan, which is available in draft form at the link that Larissa posted, contains 4 primary sections. There's a section on goals, where the county wants to go in terms of outdoor recreation and the relationship to the economy. So we have a comprehensive set of goals. We have a comprehensive set of action areas. So those are looking at all the different areas of the outdoor economy in terms of strategies and areas of focus to enhance it and move it forward, that not only the county can look at, but anyone who's involved in the outdoor economy in any way could also think about how it incorporates or supports their work. We identify 4 core actions for the county government to sustain and enhance outdoor recreation economy. We really want to look at how can the Warren County Planning Department and other departments play a central role in lending capacity, expertise, and resources to advancing all of this. So this plan is intended to position them and give them the guidance and tools that they need to do that work effectively. And then the last piece is a handful of key projects and initiatives that we think are well positioned to move forward on the promise of the outdoor recreation economy. So I'm just going to buzz through some elements of this. We're not going to go through everything that's in the plan right now, just being mindful of time. Like I said, all of this is all posted for folks to peruse at their leisure. The plan, like I mentioned, contains these action areas. And so this is an example of one of those. We wanted to provide not only just say, here's a general notion of what the county and other outdoor recreation partners should do. We wanted to provide additional information about best practices, strategies, who some of the involved parties are, and how some of this could move forward. So a big theme that came up was just improving the accessibility of trails for different users of different ability levels. And so in this spread, we talk about what some of those core concepts are around things like universal access and adaptive friendly trail design. We look at what are some of the best practices in terms of strategies to partner with organizations who have the expertise or the resources to help different land managers or trail managers move forward with projects, and who might all be involved. So we have 27 of these in the plan, ranging from support for outdoor recreation businesses to community planning to outdoor recreation assets and infrastructure and land management. I'm just being a little bit mindful of the time, and I was going to spend a little time going through all of these, but I think I'm just going to pick out a couple of the highlights. Like I said, we can come back to this, or folks can take a look at it in the draft plan. But you'll see in the action areas a big focus on trails, all things trails. So that's not only, creating new trails, but that's maintaining them to a high standard of quality that folks are going to expect. Making sure that trailheads provide the right amenities and kind of start that outdoor recreation experience off well, making sure that there's capacity to manage all of this, and thinking about the connectivity that trails can provide between downtowns and hamlets and those outdoor recreation landscapes. The water access piece is another one that, again, showed up really strongly for us. Making sure that any water access infrastructure is well maintained to the degree that it can be accessible to folks with different, maybe mobility challenges or other abilities. We want to see how that can be addressed and moved forward with. In terms of the county recreational facilities that the county owns, really making sure that there is the resources and coordination and capacity given to maintaining those to a high standard of quality. We heard a lot about the fish hatchery, Up Yonder Farm, and other places that are super important to communities and the folks who use those, and deliver some really important services for residents and visitors alike. So we wanted to make sure there's an emphasis on that. We talk a little bit about climate resiliency. One of the trends that we're seeing with increased frequency and severity of precipitation events, things like freeze thaw, all of that affects trail infrastructure and other outdoor recreation infrastructure, just like it affects other elements of the built environment. So thinking about that when we're designing, thinking about that when we're maintaining, and how we're applying those resources will be really important going forward, as well as thinking about that balance between recreational access and natural resource conservation. So, where we don't want to, overrun the natural capacity of our forests, lakes, and rivers to sustain outdoor recreation access while maintaining healthy ecosystems. We talk about the business connection. So thinking about, again, that connection to hamlets and downtowns, promoting how businesses like restaurants or hotels, how they can have recreation-friendly business practices, even things like providing a bike rack or having trail maps at the counter, things like that can make a really big difference for residents and visitors. Thinking about the private business side of outdoor recreation, the pipeline of workers, and making sure they have the skills that they need to be a great whitewater rafting guide or a great frontline customer service representative. Things like that will be really important, as well as some of the unique needs of outdoor recreation businesses. So, kayak rental is not necessarily the most, business that a funder or a bank is going to have experience dealing with, and sometimes they need additional kind of support and guidance and mentorship based off of that. Addressing overnight accommodations, we mentioned before the need there, thinking about planning and strategies that can promote investment and kind of that next round of reinvestment in outdoor accommodations to make sure that those are available for folks. And one thing I'll just note here is the partnership towards that end with local and regional economic development organizations that can bring things like tax incentive programs and other capacity to those types of initiatives will be really important. So that's a very quick run through of a lot of different thinking. These action areas are intended to speak, again, to all the different partners in the outdoor economy. It's not just Warren County, but communities, municipalities, nonprofits, economic development organizations, private businesses. We want folks to take a look at those and see where they find them in there and think about how that can be incorporated into the work that they're already doing. In terms of core actions for the county government, we've identified 4 areas that the county government for Warren County would be well positioned to lead in for the outdoor economy space. So one is coordination. We see a strong need for an organization that can serve as a central convener, whether that's to talk with outdoor recreation businesses, nonprofits, to serve as a liaison to state agencies, to kind of be that central resource that can be like, hey, first conversation, where do we start? Let's talk to someone at the county and they can connect us with who we need to talk to. We heard a lot about that, the need for that. from businesses and nonprofits and communities. Planning and technical assistance. So this goes back to what we talked about earlier with communities and municipalities trying to move forward with outdoor recreation projects, initiatives, plans, and not always having the resources they need to act on those or implement them. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the specific services that we envision the county providing in that space, but lending actual resources to those initiatives to help get them over the hump and move forward in a strategic way, we think is a really important opportunity to lean in on. And same thing with investment. So this speaks to not only the county's own outdoor recreation infrastructure that will need continuous maintenance and investment to make sure it's sustained and enhanced, but also thinking about, is there a role for the county to lend financial resources, again, to that local outdoor economic development project that is really poised to deliver benefit, but they can't quite find all the funding they need or get all the resources they need to make it happen. And then the last one's management. So once we have built infrastructure, how do we maintain it to a high standard of quality? How do we make sure that that is available and accessible to folks moving forward? So related to that technical assistance and investment piece, the plan goes into much more detail about this, but we've envisioned a program where the county is strategically lending resources to the advancement of certain outdoor recreation projects and initiatives, and whether that's technical assistance capacity, matching funds to support a grant application, or other forms of assistance. Having some criteria around that and having that be targeted for certain types of projects, we think is a really useful opportunity. So focusing on projects that connect downtowns and hamlets to outdoor recreation experiences or activate outdoor recreation within those places, projects that support public access to water, and general kind of community outreach and technical assistance activities are three areas where the county can lend staff resources and potentially consider different approaches to provide things like a matching fund for a grant program that a community might be going out towards. So lending that strategic capacity to kickstart those initiatives, get them over the hump. The county is in a really good position to move forward with something like that. A good example of that is in North Creek. And North Creek for a long time has been thinking about how do we better connect Ski Bowl Park to our Main Street, and also how do we better connect our Main Street to the Hudson River. So there's been a lot of different ideas that have been floated out in the past. There's now all of the ongoing investment by ORDA to invest in and create more recreation experiences in Ski Bowl Park. So this would be a good example of a project or a process where the county can come in and lend some guidance, some technical assistance, potentially some resources to help make this happen, to help this community who's been looking to do and establish some of these better trail connections, physical connections between downtown and the park, help make that happen. So we see a lot of examples for opportunities like this. All right, last thing I'm going to say, and then I'm going to kick it back over to Sarah. We have these 6 projects and initiatives that we identified through our stakeholder discussions, through our research, and through our evaluation of the county's outdoor recreation assets and needs. Projects and initiatives that are well positioned to kind of deliver on this promise of the outdoor recreation economy. So these would be projects to sustain, enhance, or create new outdoor recreation experiences, or just to improve the accessibility and availability of outdoor recreation in different communities around the county. So I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly. First one is the Hudson River Recreational Rail Corridor. So that rail corridor that goes the full length of the county has been used by Revolution Rail for rail biking in recent years, which has been extremely successful. And we want to make sure that recreational access along that corridor is sustained. So making sure that there's planning and strategic thinking to keep that rail infrastructure in a state of good repair, to make sure that there is long-term recreational access to that corridor, which through that process has really opened up a long stretch of the Hudson River for recreational access in a way that it wasn't before. So it's just trying to continue the good momentum that's been going on in that area as we move forward. Gurney Lane in Queensbury has been a really successful example of trail development that's brought in tens of thousands of folks to come ride the trails as that trail system has been improved and enhanced. There's a lot of interest and momentum in further enhancement and expansion of that system, whether it's improving opportunities for universal access or adaptive friendly bike trails, to thinking about other lands where trails could expand onto to create even more of a well-connected regional destination asset. So we've laid out some strategies and considerations for how that could be done thoughtfully. We talked a little bit about North Creek and the opportunity to enhance the connectivity of that hamlet, not only to the Ski Bowl Park, but also the Hudson River. There's a lot of opportunity and a lot of good thinking that's been gone into that, and we think it's really well positioned for the county to lend some support to. The Lower Scroon River is a really, we think, kind of underappreciated gem in the county. There are some water access points that could be improved. There's an opportunity to think about new water access points or things like portage trails around challenging sections of river to open up that run of river to a greater diversity of users. And even thinking about the road biking through there, that's a really nice scenic, low traffic stretch of road. So just thinking about kind of a corridor-based approach to expanding recreational access along the Lower Scroon. We think that could also be a model that could be applied to the Hudson River corridor as well. Number 5, this is an ongoing process being led by the county to look at the Warren County Bikeway and Feeder Canal Trail and how those assets can be improved, how they can be made safer, how they can be more well connected into Lake George, Queensbury, and Glens Falls. So continuing on with those projects, there's already some work that's happening in that space. It will be great. And then the fish hatchery. There's a whole master plan that's been developed by the county to not only make sure that that is sustained and delivering on its core mission to provide stocking and enhancing the county's trout fisheries, but also how can the fish hatchery be an even improved destination in and of itself to provide access to the river, to provide interpretive experiences at the visitor center there. So there's a lot of opportunity along those. So these are not the only projects that we see that would be important, but we thought these were what rose to the top in terms of being able to deliver regional benefit across the county. I'm just going to skip past this for time. We're going to talk a little bit more about the fish hatchery plan and get to this last slide, which is talking about all the work that's already happening in this space around the county. So I'm going to kick it back over to Sarah to just buzz through this, and then we will be able to do a little Q&A for the last couple minutes.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Alex. Yeah, so we want to highlight the fact that Warren County Planning and Warren County in general is already implementing a lot of what is in this outdoor recreation economy strategic plan. And really the actions are going to help support and further and direct our actions into the future. But we really did just want to list off and provide you all with the information of some of the active projects that we're currently working on, that we are so excited for this plan to be implemented, because really it's going to help us further support funding requests or program expansion or pivot on our direction that we're going in as a department or in the county or for the county. So yes, that is a list that we have. And with that, I'd say we are, I think, at the end of our presentation portion of this. Yeah, so that is myself and Ethan are the contacts for this outdoor recreation economy strategic plan. Please reach out to us if you have any comments on the plan itself. I will note with the plan process, this will not be formally adopted by the Board of Supervisors. So that is something to note with this type of plan. So it will essentially, we are going through this comment process at this point, but in the next couple weeks, we will deem the plan final and it will be implemented. So that is something to keep in mind. So with that, I'm going to go to the Q&A and to see if there's any questions specifically about the plan. I encourage you all to submit some comments or questions in the Q&A, and we'll be sure to record it. So we do have a question from Adam Bailey. And also we had another one from, we don't have the name, but really looking at, were short-term rentals considered in the lodging options in this report, or were it just motels, hotels? So I would say we did look at the businesses, I think more the motel, hotel, and really did not look more specifically at the short-term rentals in this evaluation. Alex, if you want to shed a little more light onto that. I know I will say that Warren County is working on a housing strategy, and we have been doing a lot of work in evaluating short-term rentals. But we did not go, I believe, into that level of detail with this plan.
Yeah, I think with that, since we were working on this in tandem with the county's comprehensive plan, we didn't take as deep of a dive into some of those topics as it relates to, the question of like housing supply and the relationship of short-term rentals in that case. So, like Sarah mentioned, that's a parallel work that is happening in that space. But certainly that's, SCRs have backfilled in certain areas where the traditional motel and bed and breakfasts have not been as present.
Thank you. Yes, so then we have a question, are the action areas numbered by priority? No, they are not numbered by priority. So to answer that question, we have another question. I'm interested to see if there is an initiative to create more lake access on Lake George on the west side. Our customers want access to the lake, and this drives visitorship. We'll note that, and that's something we can look into in the future. Thank you.
Sarah, we had another question come in on the chat too. It says,
Okay.
regarding when you mentioned that this is not the type of plan that receives formal adoption by the Board of Supervisors, we have a question asking, so does that mean that this plan is already set in stone? So if you could just talk about how your department would use this plan.
Yeah, of course. So we are taking comments still and accepting comments. Dependent on the scale of modification, we may make some minor adjustments at this point in time. But yeah, we will have the plan being effective at a certain point in time, where we will not be, making any additional changes. But I will say over time, we are going to be reviewing this plan and potentially making modifications as time progresses and, plans change or, whatever changes, we will be really paying attention to that.
All right. A couple other questions, and I think, yeah, Sarah and Ethan, I'll leave it to you if you want me to answer these or if you want to take it on. So, question about who'd be the contact person at Warren County Planning to discuss emerging private/public/nonprofit biking trail development funding?
Yeah, so I'd say either myself, Sarah Bruger, or Ethan Gaddy. Our contact information is on the slide there.
All right, and then a question from Carolyn. It seems to me that developing a multi-use trail utilizing the county's rail tracks would meet many of the goals stated. Accessibility, connectivity, and access to a wide range of recreational opportunities in every season could be accomplished via rail trail. The Tupper Lake Rail Trail and others numerous trails across the country have shown to be huge boost to the economy. Is this a priority for the county?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ethan Gaddy, County. In the stakeholder engagement process and like the analysis of the economic impacts of a lot of our assets, I think we've got Rob Hart here from Rev Rail. And it's like right now the Warren County Railway is being used by a really active and important partner. And so, our first and primary interest is in making sure that, we maintain the access and the use of the rail for these guys right now. And it's like, the number of visitors that Rev Rail brings in is remarkable. And then also some of the connections that they're making to, adjoining businesses, whether it be rafting opportunities or, trying to work on like package deals with other accommodations. which is a pretty unique thing as compared to what was going on up in like the northern part of the Adirondacks, where there was not a rail bike operator there taking advantage of like the facilities. And I think also a little bit different too in Warren County is like, you know, we've owned these rail tracks for about 20 years. We've made substantial investments in the rail stations and the other facilities along the way. So it does lend itself really well to having private enterprise along those tracks right now.
There's a follow-up, a similar question, kind of a follow-up to that from Richard. Have you considered creating a rail trail with rail, so a rail with trail to complement RevRail's use of the tracks? There's no area north of Lake George to bike or recreate away from traffic for non-mountain bikers. Do you want me to speak to that one, Ethan? And I can.
Yeah, I mean there was a study that was conducted a few years ago by the Adirondack. It was like the Warren County Safe and Quality Biking Organization.
Right.
It did some preliminary estimating on cost of it. But I think some of the engineering constraints based on like the fact that the rail line was built up from, you know, either wetlands or next to the water. There's definitely some complications with that, and you know, the study was pretty rudimentary. And, you know, at some point in the future, it could be revisited.
And I will note that we do have under the key projects, the Hudson River Recreational Rail Corridor as one of those items. So that's on page 49 of the outdoor recreation plan. So I encourage you to take a look at that as well.
Beth asked, does the plan address anything related to increasing playgrounds in our county? For instance, Shepherd Park and Lake George, his playground is in need of rehab. I didn't see anything on my first look in the draft. We did not include anything related to playgrounds specifically. We were focused more on nature-based recreation through this. So yeah, some of the more kind of in-town type amenities, playgrounds, you know, ball fields, courts, things like that. We had to kind of draw the line somewhere in terms of what our scope for this was going to be in terms of our focus. So really looking more at the nature-based recreation and natural assets as our main focus for this plan.
We had another question come in on chat too, Alex, Ethan and Sarah.
Yeah.
About wages and salaries and how they compare with other sectors.
Yeah, that's not something we studied directly. I think generally we know, I mean, in the outdoor economy, there's a pretty wide range. You know, there's going to be seasonal kind of frontline workers who are not making particularly high wages. And then there's others who are involved in running, operating, or owning businesses that can do quite well. So yeah, I think probably your average, you know, nurse is probably making more than your average, you know, kayak rental attendant. And it is a consideration, right? So like one of the things we definitely wanted to emphasize is still within that there are specific kind of skills that you need to sustain these different operations. So a great example is whitewater rafting guides. You know, that is a skill that is a really a high skill operation. And what's really important to emphasize and something we emphasize in the plan is the role that SUNY Adirondack plays in helping make that happen. So through their outdoor recreation coursework, you know, a lot of the guides on the Hudson River have gone through SUNY Adirondack to make that happen. So having that local partner is super important. And that it can be a really good jumping off point for those folks to make careers out of that. That's a big emphasis for the students who are going through that program. So their first job might in the outdoor economy might not be the highest paying job, but they can be set up well potentially for longer careers. So it's a mixed bag for sure. Yeah, that would be my answer. All right, we're right at 1 o'clock. I think if there's any final burning questions, we could take a couple. Otherwise, what do you think, Sarah and Ethan?
Yeah, I just want to say definitely it's like as we get wrapped up with the, you know, the planning process here, it's like, you know, I think Alex walked you through a handful of the goals and we have a lot of different action items, and you know, we want to stay flexible, you know, as new opportunities arise, like we want to be poised to, you know, take advantage of them. So really we do want to continue our efforts as a county to like further engage with the industry. And we realized through this process that like there's currently not a great forum for like all the different people involved in the outdoor rec industry to talk. So we are like looking forward. We're going to try to figure out ways to like convene land managers, like convene people that are in the industry, whether it's on like a quarterly basis or maybe like at a summit annually, because it doesn't exist right now, and this is like a very important pillar of our economy. Like we got to open up that communication. So plans not, it's going to be fluid and dynamic, and we definitely want to hear from like all the people on this call and anyone else in the industry. It's like our door is open. Take a look at it. Like if you see opportunities, hear about things, want to bring something to our attention, like don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Great. Well, it looks like we have no other questions. So thank you so much for attending today's Lunch and Learn. We really appreciate your time. Everyone have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.